Let's see. Apparently today is the day to make the most noise. Should have tried to do this yesterday. So if you hear some interference, I'll pause and then continue on afterwards. We're gonna try and do this again. Back in July, I released an intro video to my YouTube channel talking about what I'm gonna do with the car and everything. And I also mentioned that I was going to move. So I did plan on staying in New York. Funny enough, I won one of the lotteries to move into one of the newly built gentrifier houses. But I don't think I could have stayed in New York. I think I would have been stuck in a place mentally if I would have stayed in New York. So I packed up all my shit, put it in my BMW, and I drove across the country. So you are now watching this from San Jose, California. I didn't intentionally plan to move to California. I just wanted to move in general. I feel like it was time to do so. And I saved up enough to move. I came out here with like $6,000. So I had enough to move anywhere in my personal opinion. So I did. I had a couch from a friend of mine, was a friend of mine. And I stayed at their place for about, 3 weeks. And then I stayed with my cousin for a little bit, got a job. And then I was like, you know what, it's time to get busy on the car. So I have a plan, and it's quite obvious what the plan is gonna be. I'm swapping my engine in my car. Among other things, you can see the bore beds in the back. I'll go into a little detail about some more of the stuff. But the main focus, this is gonna be in 2 phases, let me say. First phase is swapping in this engine here, right? And I'll go into detail what this engine is. Swapping in the engine is the main focus, and then upgrading suspension is part of this, because once I put more power in it, you definitely need to upgrade your suspension components. And then the second stage, after this is in the car, is upgrading the engine management, possibly turboing it, because it has low enough compression that stock internals will handle 12 PSI. I'm not trying to go that high, but it can. And then maybe do a little change on the intake, things of that nature. And that's the second phase. And then the engine that's coming out of my car, the 4-cylinder, is gonna go in something else. So it'll be on a stand like this once this is in the car. And for that one I'm really, really excited for. Not more than this, but I'm really, really excited for, because there's a company called Hyde Motorworks in Vineland, New Jersey, and they're working on a supercharger kit for the engine that's currently in my car. And there's a company called E28 Goodies who sells a turbo exhaust manifold for the engine in my car too. So I'm trying to be the first twin-charged M10 in America. Left-hand side, intake side, is gonna have the supercharger, obviously. And on the exhaust side, it's gonna have a turbo. So twin-charged. The engine's gonna probably have to be fully built, all forged internals, because I'm gonna be pushing a lot of air into the engine at once. So that's like stage or phase 3, I would say. And I'm not like super gonna jump right into that after this is in there. I'm probably gonna slowly build that up. I plan on staying out here for the next 3 to 5 years, and then, moving somewhere else. Obviously, if I find a job that's good enough that I can see myself staying out here for long term, I'll probably stick out here for maybe 10 years. I do want to move around a lot. I do want to experience America, because driving across the country, you do not realize how big it really is. I guess I can talk about that a little bit. When I left New York July 29th, I want to say, around 4 a.m. My first stop was west Pennsylvania. I did not realize how long of a block Pennsylvania is. It took about 8 hours to get through Pennsylvania, 6 to 8 hours. But once I got to the end of Pennsylvania, I took a little break because I haven't done a long distance driving in a very long time. So I was really tired and I didn't want to crash, obviously, with all my stuff in there. So I took a break at the furthest west point of Pennsylvania. I took a little nap, and then I drove a little more. I stopped in Akron, Ohio. Didn't see any LeBron monuments or LeBron things, which is maybe because I just wasn't in the right part of Akron. After Akron, I stopped in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's originally where I was born and where I'm from. So I figured, let's go see Pops. So I saw my dad, haven't seen him in over 20 years, I'd like to say. So, hung out with him for a night, 8 in the morning, split and everything like that. Stopped in Chicago because I wanted to see the Bean. I'm a huge Kanye West fan, so Homecoming, the Bean, But Lollapalooza was going on, so there's a lot of people. I didn't really want to stay in a crowded area. I don't like crowds. So, I got my picture of the Bean. Also the little tower things that's in Transformers, the one with all the dinosaurs. I think that was filmed in Chicago. That little tower thing, I seen that too. And then after Chicago, made my way down to Iowa. My friend Chris Mbakwe, he lives in Iowa. And my brake caliper actually broke. Not broke, let me not say broke. Screw came out and the caliper was just hanging on literally by, I'd say maybe 4 millimeters, just hanging on there. So we were close enough to his house where I can limp the car there and get the parts I needed to switch it over just so I can continue on my journey. I did say to myself, wherever I broke down and was able to, wasn't able to fix the car, that's where I would, start my new life, And I did break down in Iowa, but I had the parts to fix it. So I was like, you know what, let's just keep going. Iowa's a pretty nice town. It's very quiet. I think he has a 2-bedroom apartment and he's paying $350 a month. That is crazy. To put into perspective, I'm paying around $800 a month for one room and he's paying less than half of that for a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's spacious, and it's a nice little quiet part of town, a little ways away from downtown. He's in Ames, Iowa. That's where I went. After Iowa, I went to Nebraska, took a little break, continued on. After Nebraska, I went to Wyoming, I believe, Cheyenne. I chose Cheyenne. I could have went to Denver because they're like kind of north-south of one another. It's the furthest east point of Wyoming is Cheyenne, I believe, or furthest west. Either way, they're like poles of each other. So I could have like split up, went to Denver, or split down, went to Cheyenne. If I would have went up to Denver, it would have, wow, the lights went out. It would have taken me longer to get to California if I would have went up through Denver and then across. Because Highway 80 runs straight across America. After you get to Pennsylvania, it's straight across. So I went to Cheyenne. My grandfather is a huge fan of Westerns. So I was like, let me see what Cheyenne's about, Maybe there's like horses and cowboys and stuff, but we are in the 21st century and they are cowboys, but they don't live in the major cities anymore, obviously. So I did see a skinhead for the first time. Never seen a skinhead in my life. He had looked like what was a jail jumpsuit. He had the orange pants on. He had a white tank top, very red ginger beard, very long, tattoos all. Maybe I won't call him a skinhead. That's me being judgmental. He was just bald with tattoos on his head and looked like he just got out of jail. That's the appearance that I saw. I don't know anything about him. That wasn't fair. But he was walking in the middle of the street on the solid yellow lines, just, enjoying his life when there's perfectly good sidewalk. So, it was a little strange, but, I stopped at a diner in Cheyenne. Pretty good. Had pancakes, obviously. I'm a huge fan of pancakes. Got a mug. After I went to Cheyenne, I stopped in Salt Lake City, Utah, which was quite, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like very bright, if that makes sense. I really don't know the words to put behind how I felt about it, but it was just definitely an area that oxygen I really don't know how to describe it, but either way, like I had a really good time in Utah. I went to a diner, of course, had pancakes, of course. The waitress was like very, very sweet, and she explained to me how they almost, closed down because of the pandemic, because people weren't coming in to give them business, and I don't know if they had delivery set up, wherever the case may be, but it was a very touching story, and I kind of felt bad because I'm the type of person, if I enjoy the meal, I'm kind of going on a tangent a little bit. If I'm the type of person who enjoys a meal with someone, or if I'm breaking bread and I enjoy how the experience was breaking bread, it makes me feel really good inside, and I feel like everyone should be, some appreciation should be shown towards the parties you're with if you enjoyed yourself while you're eating. So I tipped her, I think like $100 or something like that. Again, I had like $6,000 on me. So I tipped her like $100, and I was like, you know what, I'll see it back in life in some way. If I get a job, I'll make that 100 back tenfold. You know what I mean? It's not, for right now, this is something I should, celebrate and show appreciation for. So I had, I don't remember the name of the diner of the mug in my house, but I had food there. Then I went from Utah to Reno, Nevada. I didn't, sleep over in Reno, Nevada. I slept over at my friend's place in Iowa, a hotel in Cheyenne, and a hotel in Utah. Any other time in between, I was continuously driving. So I stopped in Reno for gas, and Reno's about 3 hours from Oakland. That's where my friend lives. So I stopped for gas, got some water, I had a pee break, and then I, went out to Oakland. And I have to say, coming from Reno to Oakland, it's a lot of forests. I think Lake Tahoe or Tahoe area is in between or something like that. And I happened to like look out my window because it was nighttime outside, and you can see the stars. Like New York is like so light polluted, which is a double-edged sword. You have all these infrastructure and buildings, things can be made. It's good for a business, but at the same time, being in New York City, you don't really get to experience a lot of the outside nature. You know what I mean? You have to travel upstate or something like that where you can fully experience it. But I was just like blown away the fact that I can actually see the stars. Like I can see them very brightly and very clearly. So after I got to Oakland, I pulled into my friend's garage and ripped the sunroof off of my car because my bike was attached to it and it was not enough clearance. So that was the trip, more or less. But getting back to the main focus, this is the introduction of the next season, because now that I'm here in California, I have a place to live, I'm generating income. I think I'm gonna be stationary for a decent amount of time. Now I can fully dedicate, more time to completing what I wanted to do in New York. So being out here, also there's things called pick and pulls where, they bring a car that doesn't roadworthy anymore, and you just pull the parts you want from it. That's not where this is from. This is from a junkyard, but plenty of parts behind me I've gotten from pick and pulls, tail lights, suspension components, and they sell them for so cheap. So I got a differential too for like $30. It was like a little promotion going on. It would have been 90, but I got it for 30. But this is the M30 B35. And to break it down, the M30 is, I believe, just the generation number. So mine is the M10. BMW 325s, 325IS, they all came with the M20, which is in between my engine and this engine. And then there's the M30. These never came in E30s, but they did come in 5 Series up till 1995, from 1987 to 1995, I believe. They came in 7 Series, the 735i. 35 denotes the engine displacement. So I have a M10 B18. So I have a 1.8 liter engine. This is an M30 B35. This is a 3.5 liter engine. So I'm almost doubling my displacement, which means, more power. But the Alpina B3.5S or 35S actually had this engine in it. So this engine really isn't that uncommon of a swap. And they sell, motor mounts for it that will fit inside my chassis. And the issue that I'll probably run into is cooling the car, because I have a radiator in front. and you can't use a fan. You have to use an electric fan and things like that. AC, I'm probably gonna delete because I mean I came out here in August and it was pretty hot, but I didn't experience like peak summer temperatures yet. The power steering and stuff like that is going to be all these front, accessories and stuff. That stuff's going to be taken off, either refurbished, replaced, or deleted. And the reason why I chose this engine was because I am a very frugal person. I lucked out and got this engine for $350, which is to me an equivalent pair of a pair of Yeezys. What else? I could have gotten a more easier engine to swap in, like an M50 out of a E36 or an S52 if I had, lots of money. But I wanted to do something that's kind of period correct for my car. And I'm not like a purist. I would drop a Volvo engine in my car before I drop one of these if I had the time, space, and money to do that. That's the type of timing I'm on in my head. But this presented itself, and I was like, it's only right that I do it. It is a very torquey engine, so I'm still trying to source a transmission. When I went to look at it, the guy had the full engine, well, minus the engine harness. He had the full engine, flywheel, and the transmission. And I was like, you know what? I'll save up the money, and once I save up, I'll come and buy it. When I went to buy the engine, he told me, "Man, I thought you were gonna come back. I didn't know, so I sold the flywheel and the transmission." I was like, "Dang, man." He's like, "Yeah, if you left down a deposit, we would have just held the engine and stuff until you paid it off." And I've never bought anything from a junkyard. This is my first car. This is my first engine swap. This is my first cross-country trip. You know what I mean? It's a lot of firsts for me. So I was like, I didn't even know you can do that at junkyard. I really thought you had to pay up front. And he's like, "Nah, man, I wish I'd have known. I would have just, told you to put down a deposit, $100 each, and then, work your way on paying it up." So right now I'm in the process of trying to find a transmission. Because this engine is based off the engine that's in my car right now, they share very similar design cues and stuff like that. This engine actually mates up to my transmission, but the problem is this is pushing way more torque than my engine produces. So there's a chance that I, go into gear and I explode my transmission. So I'm really trying to find the proper transmission for this to swap into my car so that I don't have to really worry about, damaging my drivetrain. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to drive to Washington State to get the transmission because people out here, they'll source parts and they'll charge very, very premium prices for it because of the rarity rather than, someone's going to want this. If I charge this at a price that's reasonable, I can get my money. I don't have to wait on, someone coming to buy it. So there's one in Washington. Same year, because it's from 1991, same year, so I don't have to worry about that. And that's going to be around $300. So maybe in the next couple weeks, I'll go get the transmission for it. These wheels back here, I feel like the wheels are going to be part of, phase 2 of the car. Because I have pretty nice wheels on there. These are 17s behind me. Want to get them refinished, redone. The paint on them is pretty good, but they're bent and they have pretty bad curb rash. So I'm gonna get those done at some point. I haven't done my taxes yet, so we're gonna see what we do with that tax money. We'll probably be responsible with it rather than doing things that's frivolous and unresponsible. I don't know what else to talk about, to be honest. I wanted to present this in a way cleaner way. You know what I mean? Taking off all the accessories and whatnot, just having cylinder head and block, and intake, have it really clean. But I feel like I should show you the raw dirt that this engine is. I don't know how long it's been sitting. It has good compression, so I'm not worried about that. But this is dirt, this is very, very bare bones, very, unclean, so that when I do clean it up and drop it in the engine, you can, kind of compare it, from from what it is now to what it's going to be. What I plan on doing with the engine, cylinder head's coming off. I'm going to get that decked, probably ported and polished, things of that nature, real nice, clean stuff. And I'm probably going to put a more aggressive cam in it. I don't know what comes in it right now. I think it might be just a 270 degree or 280 degree. I have to do more research on it. But I do want to put a more aggressive cam. so that the torque comes in later on in the curve rather than earlier on, which I still probably would have to play with. There's a timing chain, adjustable timing chain, I think it is, or adjustable cam sprocket, something like that, where I can play with it. These are very primitive engines, so the engine management only really does spark, gas, and air, rather than something along the lines of Vanos or VVTi, where you can adjust your valves and your cams so you can have different things on your map when you're getting dynoed. But most of the stuff I'm doing to this will be cosmetic, cleaning it up, refurbishing, and the performance aspect will probably go into the cylinder head. Because it has good compression, I'm not going to be changing any of the pistons, the rods, or anything like that. I might, if I end up getting into more money, I may do a complete rebuild. Again, once I take the cylinder head off, I'll be able to see what the pistons look like, and if the pistons are really like dirty, then I might have to completely redo the engine. But that's the plan for now. We're gonna try and be more consistent with the uploads on YouTube now that I am stationary. But if you made it this far through the video, I appreciate that. I don't need you to subscribe. I don't need you to like it or anything like that. I'm not doing this to generate income or clout or anything like that. None of that stuff really matters to me. I just want to document the process of things that I do in life. There's going to be vlogs on here as well. That's the kind of thing. So maybe, I said this in the intro video, someone who is bored one day, hey, I want to look up, how this engine did this, or what the process of doing this engine. That's something that I'm trying to look forward to. I'm not trying to get notoriety or anything like that. But I do appreciate your time for making it this far. I don't know how long this video is. Of course, it's going on IGTV, and IGTV is weird because I don't think people really watch 30 to 40 minute length videos on IGTV, as opposed to YouTube, where you sit down and you want to watch something dedicated to, learning something. But again, I appreciate your time for sticking out this long, and stay tuned because you'll see a lot of what's going on with this engine. Thanks.